We looked at a number of different licenses for us to develop a game on, and Stargate appealed to us. We thought it was a perfect license to do a game based on. You have these 4 people that go through this pool of water to different planets, so really you have a broad spectrum to run with. The game is set right at the end of Season 8. We have Anubis, we have the Ancients, we have a number of different races from the show involved with the game. The 4 characters of SG-1 were characters that really appealed to us, and their camaraderie and humour is something that we've tried very hard to translate over into the game.
You get to actually play all the characters.
So they can play as O'Neill, they can play as Carter, they can play as Teal'c, and they can play as Daniel.
And that's going to really make you think you are really in a room with 3 of the SG crew.
I think being an action game and drawing up on the SG-1 show, there's a great range of different worlds and environments that players can explore, and so many different things they can do in the game. I think having the voices from the show, from the original characters, will be a great thing as well.
We came up with a brand new enemy called the Harken.
They exterminate another race called the Extra Knights. So we've made the Extra Knights very doe-like, sort of passive-looking little creatures, and they get wiped out by these guys.
They are probably something that the fans haven't seen in the series, but they fit in well with the story, and they're quite menacing, and they're sort of very strong enemies.
I think we originally thought it would be like a more reptilian sort of character, and very beast-like and very violent, but we wanted it to look very intelligent as well, so it started becoming more human as we went through the stages of progression. The Grunt was the first one to be designed, and he's got like a mask on the face, and that didn't work too well. We thought it looked too alien, and so we sort of went through adding human features into the more alien features. And the eyes helped a lot, but we didn't want to make it to look too human. So we took the nose off, and the high cheekbones really helped to make it look elegant and just have a fierce sort of intelligence to it. As I said, we started with the Grunt. It was decided the leader will be a smaller character that had a lot of power, and so therefore didn't need to be physically, huge like the warrior. So we came up with this more refined head, and then we decided, well, we'll go for a female if it doesn't need to be physically powerful, and a lot of the other characters are male, and we thought that would add, a kind of elegance to it as well. I mean, I started off with the Grunt and just tried to make him female, and it wasn't working too well. She was looking pretty butch. And so I went back to drawing out where she would be in this hub. She's supposed to be in a hub with all these things plugged into her and tubes coming out of her body. So I thought I'd start with that. That might be nice inspiration. So she's just floating there. So I just started with some little sketches. And then once I'd got a good grasp of what she was looking like as a floating sort of character, I had to bring it back down to doing the 3 elevations again, the front, side and back for the modelers. So I started planting her feet on the ground and pulling her arms out, and generally tidying up the textures and working on her face.
My job involves developing the concepts for environments and objects and vehicles and so forth. I usually start with a sketch that I might do on paper with markers. From that, I will then take the initial sketch and develop a more polished concept. At the moment, I'm working on the mothership for the Harken. Now, obviously, they need to have a quite distinct look from every other established race in the Stargate universe. So this is obviously the first stop for inspiration when it comes to developing those vehicles and environments. I've taken the breakup of the plates and this kind of almost scarab look to the chest plate, and I've used that for the basis of the ship. The process starts with a whole series of roughs where I'm just throwing out ideas, even ideas that I don't feel particularly strong about, but I'll throw down those ideas and then discuss that with the lead artist.
Well, they'll come to me and say, I'm not sure if this is going to fit in with
with what we had designed originally and stuff. What should we do here?
So here's some of the roughs that I've done for the Harken mothership, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on which one works for you, or if any of them do.
Yeah, I think the first one that jumps out is this one here. I love the shape of it, but it's probably a little too narrow for the interior of the mission that we've got planned. So this one here is looking really nice, I think. If you've got this section, just because it's got a lot of elements from the character themselves. I can see you've kind of tried to work parts of their armour into the ship as well, which...
I'm glad you like that one.
Yeah, which I think, I think you should probably go ahead on working more into this, like something showing the section where the big final battle is going to be with the leader and stuff at the end. And
you know, I initially designed this to go the other way and have the engine sort of clustered around here, but
yeah, it could go in either direction. I think
he'll take elements. He'll take one of the concepts, or he'll take a combination of, or he'll throw in his own ideas, and from that, I'll then develop a more polished concept, which will then provide the basis for the model, which will then go into the game.
There's around 18 different environments, and a lot of the time we'd have, say, the script written out, and it'll say you're going to be running around with a sniper rifle and you're going to be protecting your teammates who are down in a big valley. It wasn't too much on what the planet had to look like or anything like that. So the basic process is we thought it's got to be mountains, we'll give it snowy peaks and a little valley. So we went around, collected a lot of sort of images for maybe the colours that we were going to use, the rock formations and so on. Then I spoke to Grant, the concept artist, about what sort of structures we could have to be in opposition to the surrounding mountains and stuff, so that as you're running around you need to come out onto these structures. You'll really notice them because you'll have a big white environment. You'll really need these structures to stand out from a gameplay point of view, so that's sometimes where the artwork really needs to carefully link into what the game design is asking for, because you can easily do, say, a big green forest and a green hut, and you'll never find the objective you're looking for sometimes. So from that point, the modelers and artists would, one piece at a time, create things like rock shelves, trees, and so on, and even these mountains that are in the background. The next stage would be then to start placing things like clouds that are moving around, and generally get an overall idea of how large the area is going to be. This is actually quite a large area. You can see that a human is about this size here, so we wanted to give it a really grand sort of feel, so that as you were walking around through here you felt quite small, and you had to look also down at your teammates that were running around down here. Wanted to give it a fair bit of distance, because you were using this rifle that you have to see for kilometres, and gives you a good feeling of a reason to use it as well. Pretty much every weapon is taken directly from the show, because they do use a lot of really cool and different weapons.
We implemented the SAT gun exactly as it is in the show, but it turns out that it was unusable because it was way too powerful compared to all the other weapons in the game. If you had the SAT gun, you basically wouldn't need to use any other weapons, so we had to take some creative license there, tone down how powerful it was, but still keep it true to the spirit of the show.
One of the things we spent a lot of time on is the characters themselves, because these are very identifiable characters for fans of the show that have been following this thing for the last 8 years. When we did the visual effects for Avatar, we actually had the actors step into a scanning machine, so we scanned their faces and were able to represent them in 3D. We're using those same scans within the game.
Let's start with Chris. These are the 5 expressions that exist in mankind for this video game. There's the surprised. This is angry. This is eyes closed with mouth agape. This is neutral. And then the all-important teeth.
Yeah, and the teeth are just used for placement.
Of teeth?
Yeah,
that's good, because mine are both small, yellow, and missing.
Being able to have realistic looking characters is something that is going to draw the player into our game world in a big way.
Airline kind of looks a little bizarre.
One of the great humour elements of Stargate is just, O'Neill giving someone a look. that's hard to pull off, or current technology for video games anyway. We're doing as much as we can to try and take that to the next level and really be able to make someone laugh with just a look from the character.
And then each character actually has a special ability which is in tune with what they can do in the series.
We've given Tilk a special melee attack. He does use melee attack every now and then in the show, but what we've kind of given it a bit more oomph.
If we have a particularly complex animation, sometimes it's necessary to do a good job. We have to actually act it out. You're throwing kicks, or you've got your imaginary staff weapon and you're doing a melee attack at someone who isn't there. You get a lot of funny looks around the office. But you really need to do that to get the best animation you can.
And animation is quite a big part of the game. Obviously, it's required to make all the characters move and react the way we want them to. If there is explosions or doors needing to open, or a character needs to pick something up or run and shoot, all of those things are done by an animator.
This character actually, enemy, exists in the show. So I've just been watching this video, little section of it, and seeing what happens when they actually do destroy this. So I might play this back and forth maybe 100 times or something and find as much reference as I can for how this thing gets blown up. And this is one of the more fun bits, is getting to blow things to bits and all that, so I like being in that step of the process. You can see in this image I've just cut him up and I'm taking him to pieces, but I'm just doing it quite slowly so I can see how all the bits should break up, where they should sort of drop onto the floor and splat. And then we'd like to, maybe the first time that you do defeat this guy, to give you a good sense of reward, we'll sort of do a little bit of a cinematic, so when he finally does die, it'll be sped up, and then we might slow it down, sort of, you know, put some voices going, oh, and just give a bit more impact.
Sound design is one of the areas that comes towards the end of the project, where quite a lot of things are already in the game, because the sound designer actually needs to see the visuals and match sort of certain sounds to what appears on screen.
My job is to get the sounds in and then manipulate it so it actually it plays in the game. So like some of the sounds, like machine guns and stuff like that we get from the actual series, even though it sounds right in the actual series, during the game it doesn't actually, it's too real. It has to be hyper real. Like there are a lot of sci-fi edges to it. Like there's the Stargate sound, like people are familiar with in the series, and want them to be familiar with that during the game. And the enemies as well. A lot of the enemies, like the Jafar and stuff like that, they have a certain sound to them, and I want them to be familiar with that. The Ritu actually crashes the grate and starts flying out straight at you. I wanted to actually attach the sound to the grate, so when it goes over you, you flick over and look over. So that's the initial gate sound, crashing, and then the actual whoosh sound. So that's basically like I've recorded all these layers together, like smashing pans and stuff like that, and then whooshing all the leads to get that final sound. I've got this sound here. Instead of having high-pitched, missed sounds that is generally used, I use the didgeridoo to get that low drone sound. The actual player won't know, but like subconsciously he'd actually feel immersed inside the game.
We have to be mindful all the time of the fans and of their expectations.
We have to work pretty hard to make sure that we make the characters as close as possible to the series, because that's what they're expecting.
We're trying to sort of please the gamers and allow them to have fun and enjoy the game, even if they've never seen the series or the movie. But for the fans who have seen it, we want to give them the opportunity to become part of the SG team and hopefully, have fun playing it as well.